Hi, my name is Lynzi Clyde, and this is Learn, Live, Love Yourself, a podcast where self-discovery leads to self-lovery. Each episode, I am delivering fun, practical ways to peel back the layers of your life and tap into that deep down you. Changing your mind one challenge at a time, this podcast will get you loving yourself better every day. It's time to grow. Come learn, live, love yourself with me. Episode 10, Dealing with Anger. What do you get angry about? And I'm not talking frustration. I am talking anger. Like there's something eating you up inside. When you think about it, it puts you in a bad mood for the rest of the day. And maybe it makes you just want to lash out and take it out on something because this emotion is just too big or too painful and you just got to let go of it. Do you like being angry? What makes you angry? Once upon a time, I was angry. I don't like being angry, so this was really hard for me. And I think there are actually people out there who do like being angry, or at least they are not bothered by the sensation or emotion of anger enough to change or want to change or resolve anything. For me, being angry is so emotionally taxing, and since I'm usually happy, when I'm not happy, I really feel it. I get frustrated over many things, and I'm trying not to. I'm working on my patience, but most of them have to do with my daily interactions with my 3 kids. But there's a difference, in my opinion, between being angry and being frustrated. Being frustrated drives me to act. Being angry makes me feel emotionally stuck or paralyzed. I only get angry really over one thing, and it's this. I get angry when people do something to purposefully hurt themselves or the people I love or me. When they do something on purpose. And luckily that hasn't happened really that often because it's easy to explain away. Often we cannot truly know if someone has done something to us on purpose or not, right? What was their true motivation? We don't know. We can easily say in our minds, he probably didn't mean to. And that's easy to accept for me because I see that same problem in myself. I have that same shortcoming. I say things that are not sensitive. I step all over people's toes sometimes, and I'm working on it. And so I hope people give me grace for that. And I try to extend the same grace to others. So if someone accidentally says things or does something to hurt someone else, it's easy for me to forgive. But the problem I ran into was what happens when I can't explain their actions? What happens when I can't explain them away? I stopped doing purposefully mean things a while ago. I used to be a bully, and I made fun of people and made them sad and cry on purpose. And that's something I'm ashamed of, and we'll talk about it in other episodes. But since that time, I've felt badly enough, and those memories still haunt me enough so that I have stopped doing things that I know would hurt someone else. I try to live my life in a way that my actions will have a minimal effect on someone else, and I will go out of my way to try and do something for them. I really try and be considerate. No, I'm not perfect at it, but I try. So when I see someone doing something that they know is going to hurt themselves, or they know is going to hurt someone else, or they know is going to hurt me, I have no reasoning for it. I can't explain it away. And so their actions sit inside of me, and I hold on to that story, and I turn it over and over in my mind, trying to figure out, why would they do this to me? What happened? How come they thought this was okay? And it really starts to eat at me. Maybe you've been in this situation before. Someone has wronged you. What do? Well, in my story, I didn't know what to do. It was turning the filter of my life to gray. Everything was heavier and my day would be totally going fine, and then suddenly I'd remember the incident, and then like a knife, it just ripped the whole thing wide open again. And living this day in, day out, it was driving me crazy. I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to spend any more time thinking about this. And I really honestly didn't want to be angry at the person anymore. But it was hard. I didn't know how to let it go. Some people might say, harness that anger. Let it push you forward. But my opinion is that I don't think using anger to motivate me is a sustainable idea. Because using anger to fuel you, it's like a fire. So fire can provide energy and warmth, but unless it's being properly controlled and contained, it can take over. It can burn and destroy. To kind of prove this point, Lewis Howes, a big all-American athlete turned motivational speaker, said something along these lines. He said, "Anger is the most second powerful fuel in the world, but the most powerful fuel is inner peace." And that's what I believe. And so I wasn't willing to sit in my anger any longer. I decided I need to do something. That's what I believe. Elizabeth Kenny, a pioneering Australian nurse from the early 1900s, has said, "He who angers you conquers you. He who angers you conquers you." And I don't know about you, but I am not about to let anyone else dictate who I am or how I'm feeling. I wasn't willing to sit in my anger any longer, so I decided I needed to do something. Have you been there? Have you been at the edge of this cliff thinking, the next step forward, what is it? I can't see my way. I'd like to be rid of these horrible, awful, hard feelings, but I just can't see a way out. Well, first, my recommendation is to pray. And if you don't believe in God, that's fine. You can do some meditation and other exercises to try and reach out to forces outside of you to try and release this anger. But the way that I first deal with it is to pray. And because my relationship with God isn't a tangible thing, it's difficult sometimes for me to imagine what is happening if I am actually praying to be relieved of this anger. What does that actually look like on God's end? How does that come out of my heart? And I didn't know. So I just kept praying, please let me forgive this person. Please let me stop thinking about this. I just don't want to be angry anymore. And while I was praying, I came up with some other ideas to help me make my thoughts tangible so that I could actually change them. Okay, so here are my skills. Let's learn some skills to help deal with our anger. First question for you. Ask yourself, what does anger do for me? What is the benefit of being angry? Yeah, maybe it motivates you. Maybe it fuels you. But as I said before, is that a sustainable resource? Or are you going to burn out? For me, the first step was to acknowledge that this anger I was holding wasn't getting me anywhere. Anger is not productive, it's destructive. It pulls apart and demolishes peace. Admit it. Admit out loud that there is no place for anger in your life any longer. That's step number 1. The second step for me was to get to the root of the problem. Yoko Ono has said, "I realize that if my thoughts immediately affect my body, I should be careful about what I think. Now, if I get angry, I ask myself why I feel that way. If I can find the source of my anger, I can turn that negative energy into something positive." Yeah, man, that is what it's all about. So I've heard that anger can be a secondary emotion. And I believe this. So what that means is that anger is not what a person feels initially or at first, but it's a coping mechanism for a primary emotion or the first emotion that you were bombarded with. For me, my anger came after being hurt. My feelings were hurt. I felt betrayed and belittled by someone I had trusted, and I felt hurt that they didn't seem to care how their actions had affected me. Okay, I got to the root of the problem. There's the real issue. I felt hurt. That was my primary emotion. So the second step is to admit out loud what your primary emotion is. And it can be anything. It could be hurt like me. It could be fear. It could be surprise. And once that initial emotion has run its course, it could turn into anger, which for me comes from the feeling that this should have never happened and I can't do anything to change it, which also could be called disbelief and helplessness. So my hurt, disbelief, and helplessness made me feel angry. And that's far enough, my friends, because just getting to that root of that problem, we finally dug deep enough to find something that we can do about our anger. Yay! Take a second to think and admit out loud, my primary emotion is. Fill in the blank. And once I realized this, I realized that I don't have to feel helpless. Feeling hurt is a more difficult topic. Feelings being hurt is hard to get over. For me, it takes time, and we'll talk about that in another episode. But feeling helpless is definitely something we can address right now. Here are some options. Here are some actions you can take to help you not feel helpless, to help you not feel like a victim in a situation like mine. 1, you can address the issue with the offender. You can confront that person with your concerns and work it out. But you have to be the one to decide if this will actually help or hurt the situation further. This depends on your ability to keep cool, and if the person who is involved with your anger is actually someone you trust enough to hear you out and work with you on it. Do what's right for you. And remember, caution, warning, what feels right now might not be in line with your long-term goals for yourself or your relationship with the person. Be thoughtful. Don't be rash. Get second and third opinions from people that you trust and who have given you sound advice in the past. Someone who always takes your side in an argument might not be the best person to ask, should I say this? Should I confront this person? So be wise. Be wise about who you bounce ideas off of. All right, so number 1, you can address the issue with the offender. Or number 2, you can change the relationship with that person. Whether it was a stranger or your best friend or your child, your spouse or neighbor, you have the opportunity to change the relationship. And within this category, there's kind of a spectrum of things that you can do. But to boil it down, to make it really simple, I've worded it like this. You can either repair your relationship or release the relationship. So let's dive into that a tiny bit. Repairing the relationship, that looks like being bigger and being better than how that person treated you. You serve them and forgive them for what they've done and repair the relationship. This takes time. This is difficult. But I'm of the opinion that you should spend a heck of a lot of time trying to make your relationship right first. If someone has been physically or verbally abusive to you, that's a different story. Please seek help. I'm talking about small but large feelings of the heart matters. So I recommend you try to repair the relationship first. It's a really soul-enlarging endeavor. It takes a lot of guts, and it takes a lot of humility, and it's a good life lesson to learn. But if that's impossible, you can release the relationship. And I'm not talking like in The Giver. We are not euthanizing anyone here. No, I mean release them from your life in one way or another. And this is a tricky little piece of advice to give, so I want you to take this with a grain of salt, okay? Relationships are delicate and complex. Everybody's relationship with anybody else in their life is going to have so many different facets and implications to how their life runs and what it means. And relationships are part of the fabric of life. So if you're going to cut somebody out, it needs to be a very thoughtful decision. And because these relationships are so delicate and complex, please don't go out and get a divorce because of this podcast episode. That's not what I want. Okay, if you're having trials, if you're having trouble, please go find a counselor and begin to work through it. I am not qualified to give you general random advice about such an intimate and complex relationship. Please find someone who is licensed to help you with that. But if a friendship or some relationship is toxic, we can consider distancing ourselves mentally or physically. We can release them from our inner circles of our heart. If their actions continue to hurt us, if the overall relationship would be summed up in a negative word, thinking about, yes, all the good times, don't negate all the good times, but thinking about those times and the bad times combined. Is it net positive? Is it neutral? Or is it negative? And it's really, really easy to discount the positive times when you're feeling hurt. So definitely take time to consider this. Mentally releasing somebody from your inner circle would look like not counting on their approval anymore or as much as you used to. Physically would be to start spending time around other people who might lift you instead of bring you down, or following people on social media who lift you instead of bringing you down. This is especially true if somebody online has offended you or really hurt your feelings and made you angry. Because we shouldn't be rude or spiteful or hateful about any of this. That's beneath us. We need to make these decisions from a place of inner peace. And until you've achieved that, take some time before making any big decisions. But putting a hide from newsfeed flag on someone on the internet or even in real life, figuratively, can be healing and freeing. So you've got those two options. You can confront them or you can change the relationship. Repair or release. In my story, I chose number 2, to repair. If you've done these things and the anger is still bothering you, you've prayed, you've located your primary emotion, you've tried forgiving, you've tried releasing, and it's still bothering you, I have one last suggestion. I once spoke at a women's summit, and I led the audience through a mindfulness exercise that I use when I feel like it is impossible to mentally set down a problem that I'm having. Because again, I'm all about taking the things we think in our minds and making them physical and tangible. In real life, we can easily put something away or clean up a mess or change our environment somehow to help us feel at peace. But dealing with problems in our minds is much harder because there's nothing physical there to touch, nothing we can move or clean or pick up with our hands. But what if there was? My idea is to make our emotions, in this case anger, tangible. Here is the exercise. Close your eyes. Picture in your mind the last time you were angry. Think of a really bad one. Go to that space for just a minute. Who was there? What happened? How did you feel? Really dig into this. Once you're there, take a second to mentally scan your body. And what this looks like is pretend there's an X-ray machine scanning your body from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes, looking for the anger. It'll show up red on the scanner. Where is it? Where do you feel the anger in your body? For me, I feel anger. It manifests itself in the pit of my stomach, in my lower abdomen region, and it comes as heat in my face. Find where your anger physically lives in your body. Touch that space on your body lightly with your hand. eyes still closed. Now imagine grabbing that anger out of your body. Pretend to take it out of you with your hand. Feel it come out of you. It now exists on the palm of your hand. Make a fist over it and hold it out away from your body. Now repeat out loud, or in your mind if you have to, while still clutching that anger in your hand. Repeat after me. This was an experience that happened to me. I was angry. My anger was justified, but I don't want to hold on to this anger any longer. I choose to live without it. Now open your hand and drop the anger onto the floor. You can do this exercise as many times as you need to. In fact, I would encourage it. Sometimes the anger comes back, and that's okay. Just take notice of it and do the exercise again. Over time, you will become an expert in taking your unwanted emotions out of your body in a healthy way. You acknowledge the emotion, and then you choose to let it go. It might seem silly at first. You might feel really weird pretending to do this. I'm just asking you to try, because it might not feel fully impactful at first. But I would challenge you to set aside a time where you can get your mind clear and come back to this exercise in this episode and do the whole thing 3 times in a row. Hop onto Instagram and tell me how it went. What was easy? What was hard for you? Do you feel dumb? What can we do to help you work through this? In the end, finding ways to healthily deal with our anger, I believe, is such a worthwhile endeavor. Mark Twain said, "Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." I believe that. The anger will destroy you before it helps you do anything. I believe that. Our minds are so powerful. Like I said in episodes 2 and 3, the stories we tell ourselves are everything. You can find those episodes in the show notes for this show at learnliveloveyourself.com. We want to be in control of our stories, and that means being in control of our anger. We need to be in control of our stories, and that means being in control of our anger. So this is my story. Once upon a time, I was angry. I was angry because I was feeling hurt and helpless. Then, one day I was tired of that and decided to do something about it. I prayed for the ability to forgive. I worked to love the person who I felt had hurt me. I also worked to build up my self-esteem, so I knew who I was and that how other people treat me doesn't change that. It wasn't easy. I'm actually still working on it. But as I push out the bad and bring in the good, every day I'm building myself back up and loving myself better. And I'm proud of that. All right, guys, that's about it. This week's pop challenge is easy. Post on your Instagram account a picture of you. Write in the caption, "My primary emotion is ... Tag me at Learn, Live, Love Yourself podcast and use the hashtag #MyPrimaryEmotionIs. That way, I can come find your post and see what you've learned about yourself. What is your primary emotion when it comes to anger? Do some digging and let me know. Pay attention during the week. When are you angry? Is it helping you at all? How can you be in better control over your reactions? Thanks, everyone. I'm Lynzi Clyde. This is the Learn, Live, Love Yourself podcast. Leave a review, and next time, bring a friend.